Miserable Friday, people. I was going to say happy Friday, but Justin's been a dick. Welcome to Invisible Walls 53. Yep, Shane's not here. He's on a deserved long vacation. But we have a awesome show, to coin a phrase. With us today is the legend that is Patrick Morales.
Yo, what's up?
The uber sexy Mike Damiani.
I think you should stop picking on Justin so much.
He hates me. He thinks that...
Every time I'm here, it's just something against Justin.
Well, I look at you, I look at Justin, I just want you more. What can I say? The incredibly angular Daniel Bloodworth. And the true love of my life, Justin Spear.
Hey.
All right, on with the show. Okay, so let's get the show rolling in what has been undoubtedly a friggin' slow week for us getting really cool games in to talk about. But we are going to lead off with one of the juggernauts for this Christmas. It's BioShock 2, no longer called the Sea of Dreams or Seaman of Dreams or whatever you want to call it.
I think they confirmed
I
that
Dream of
Sea of
Seaman.
Dreams was just the subtitle for that trailer.
Okay, so it's not good. I mean, Sea of Dreams was just kind of retarded, to be honest with you. But we can talk a little bit about it. And I understand Patrick and Justin, you're going to have a little back and forth. So go ahead, tell us BioShock 2 news.
Is that how that works?
Apparently, allegedly.
Well, I saw the game, but I can't really talk about it. And I can't talk about its subtitle either, which they had a subtitle for the demo.
Oh,
maybe I can say
interesting.
that, since I'm not technically saying anything
We'll
about it.
bleep it out.
Well, I guess
Even that is pushing it, so I'm kind of afraid to.
Yeah, me and Justin kind of have to
dispense any info.
abstain because we've seen slightly more than everybody else, but we're not allowed to talk about it yet.
All right, Patrick, so...
Well, I guess from the layman's point of view, everyone saw the GTTV gameplay reveal. And, it pointed out some pretty interesting things. For one, you finally play as the Big Daddy, as opposed to, say, Jack from the first game. Or maybe they're one and the same. No.
I can't say anything.
All right.
I wish I could say
Good try.
This is what's going on right now.
play
We've
as
got
a Big
Patrick
Daddy.
on one side of the table, Justin's at the other, and Patrick's saying things and looking for a reaction in Justin's face.
Yes.
Justin is looking very impassive and stoic and pulling faces. So, right, you play as Big Daddy.
Yes.
Now, is Big Daddy, do we know if Big Daddy is going to be Jack? Who knows?
It's up in the air at this point, but one thing's for sure, you are being stalked around the city this time by a figure called Big Sister.
I saw it in the trailer.
Yeah.
And we've seen
She's
the artwork.
big,
We've seen the artwork,
physically.
for the Big Sister, and she's been revealed. And yeah, she looks like a vicious bitch.
Yeah, and it's an interesting bit of role reversal too, because the first game you're the more lithe figure, Jack with your guns and your plasmids, you run around, kind of duck and weave around the big daddies. But this time it's you who's the big daddy, a little bit slower, and you've got Big Sister who's a far more agile, force. And it'll be interesting how that dynamic plays out, especially when you have your little melee drill and your plasmid use. So that's just one thing that's pretty interesting about the gameplay reveal.
Yeah, it's going to definitely mess with the dynamics of the game because, as you said, the original game you were a lot more, nimble, agile. This time you're going to be clunking around, and that could get a little boring. To be able to take lots of damage. Justin, behave. But again, from what we've seen, we're not discussing anything that's not in the public domain right now. But that is actually an interesting gameplay change. Because I really like the original where you could hop around, and you could do the bounce up and down to different levels and outrun things really quickly and regather and recharge and then go and tackle things again. This time you're playing more as a tank. It's like switching between a hunter or a rogue in World of Warcraft to being an out and out warrior.
Yeah, and one thing that also should be noted is that you can actually now swim around Rapture at will. There'll be a few segments where say the water will flood into a corridor. You'll actually be able to swim in and around Rapture, to get to different parts of the city, and that'll be a pretty interesting bit of elements to be had.
All right, well, that's all we can talk about on BioShock 2, but next week we will be going way more in depth because we're going to hold Justin over hot coals until he squeals all.
I don't think I'll be here.
We'll come find
I'll
you.
be here.
Someone will be here.
I was there too. So.
All right, well, you're going to have to get your haircut to look like his now next week, and you're going to have to be way more laid back. But that's it on BioShock 2.
Mr. B, Big Sister doesn't want you playing with me.
All right, moving on. There was a event last week. Konami were unveiling and showing some new titles. Some of them that seem kind of strange and out of left field. And Daniel and Justin, you went up to Konami and you sat around their evening session, and you didn't manage to get any footage. Apparently, they wouldn't let you. So
We got zombie apocalypse footage.
Oh wow! Well, color me tickled on that one. The first one that comes to mind is the 6 Days in Fallujah game. Now it's been rumored, and I don't think it's been officially confirmed, I may be wrong, that they actually worked with insurgents on this one.
Yeah, they said that they confirmed that.
It was part of their presentation. Yeah, they interviewed some.
It was a group of Marines that were
people.
actually there that approached the company and came up with the idea. And I think the thing is like everyone's first reaction, especially people that are not into games, is like, oh my gosh, what would you make a video game out of that?
Well, that's going to be the mainstream media outcry of the week, that video games are encouraging insurgents to kill Americans.
Yeah, but the way they're approaching it, like, I think they're kind of brave, the way that they actually want to do it. I mean, to them, it's like, video games is the only medium to where they can really get their story across. And they're, trying to, be very accurate in terms of the AI and the strategies and everything that you use, and they don't want it to be like Call of Duty 4. They want it to be like you're actually making those decisions, having to determine who's hostile and who isn't, and actually being in that situation.
So is this more of an out-and-out shooter, or is it more of a tac sim? One of the old school...
It's more tactical, and
it still looks pretty shootery. I mean, it still looks like a game, and I think the insurgents can still expect to get their ass kicked without regenerating health, which you have. But the gunfire is really loud and sounds a lot different. So it has I think, a realistic aesthetic, and they're doing a lot of things with destructible everything. I think that's kind of pushed toward realism.
Behind cover, they just blew it out of the way.
And they worked with the military on this, or retired military, or
guys that were actually in the battles in Fallujah.
They had a Marine there who was like, he told a story about almost getting blown up by an RPG. So you couldn't talk shit, because he would kick your ass. He's killed people. You can tell.
Have they actually said how they're going to differentiate between an insurgent and a non-combatant, because the rules of engagement
Not at this point. I mean, it's very, very early pre-alpha. I think my main concern is they have this vision, but I'm not so sure how well they're going to pull it off. This stuff we saw even for early build, the textures and the frame rate have a long way to go.
I remember when we worked on Black Hawk Down, we had the same problem where who's an insurgent, who's just a guy throwing rocks, who's just unarmed, you can't shoot him, and in the end, literally Nova Logic had to go with putting a red X over somebody who wasn't armed, and it was a bit of a giveaway. But I mean, that's the only way you could get the ex-military guys to actually work with them, because they didn't want anybody shooting women and kids and stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do it, because I think that's one of the things they want to touch on is having to make those kinds of decisions.
Well, I remember the controversy we got over Black Hawk Down when that was first announced, and I'm sure this one is being even closer to the current conflict than Black Hawk Down was. But on the game launching, it'll be interesting to see how the mainstream media pick up on this, and I sense a Grumpy McGrump rant against the media sometime in the next couple of weeks. All right, so the other game that came out that's really sort of grabbed some attention is Saw 4. Or Saw, is it Saw?
Just
or
Saw.
It's
Saw, yeah.
And there's also, the words dragons and lair being bandied around this game. So before we get into it,
just me,
tell
I
us.
think.
Well,
I'm probably the only person who would...
Actually, you know what? I've seen it pop up on several sites in the last couple of days.
No way.
But what
I should read these sites.
For those people who haven't
Not
actually
a pretty
seen
snowflake anymore.
the Saw movies, and I'm sure there are some people with taste out there, what's the premise?
Well, it's kind of you're
Of the
in
game,
a torture
or-
device,
Yeah, the
and you're
game.
stuck in an insane asylum, and you have to get out. I think they're saying it takes place between the first and second movies, something like that.
Yeah, they definitely made it fit in the canon somewhere. I don't know how important that is, but yeah. The rich Saw universe is going to be...
So basically, you just have to,
I'll have a new
wander
element.
around and defeat all these puzzles. Now, it's not free roaming; it's Dragon's Lair, where it's press up, down, left, right.
Well,
No,
I
you
wouldn't say
definitely
that.
control and walk around. I think the thing is right now the demo they have is it feels like they just have a bunch of brainstorm things thrown together. So it's one thing right after another, and everything that you do will kill you, and then you have to start the demo over again. So it's first you have this crazy obscure they call a reverse bear trap stuck to your face, and you have to twiddle the analog stick around and try to figure out how to get out of it. and then you have to like stick your hand into a toilet full of hypodermic needles to
That's
get
the
a key
easiest thing
out.
I did is with the hypodermic because they have a pain meter while your hand's in there, which didn't really bother me that much.
And then you
Just
see
the
a guy
needle.
get his head blown off with
They're
a
still
shotgun.
working on it, yeah.
And so then obviously, you know, the next door is going to have a shotgun above it, and then there's like a quick time thing to push the button, and then
My
that just-
button kept screwing up. I don't know what it was.
yeah. So Justin.
And it's like a faint
got his
pink
head blown
outline.
off.
I'm like, I think that's a square. For the Xbox version, it's like a big red button or whatever. So I'm not sure if I was pushing the wrong button or not, but my
So-
head definitely went off.
And then I was balancing on a plank and I fell over and cracked my neck after like a 3-foot drop.
It was a deadly drop, though.
So it's basically a bunch of mini games right now where you just wander, into each room and you have a mini game to solve a puzzle and get through to the next room.
Well, I wouldn't want to really pass judgment on the game right now. It's clear they're just trying to show you the idea. So
When they scheduled this for release, I'm assuming it's going to be
Sometime next year, I think, or is it later this year?
I think it might be later this year.
in time for probably Saw 6.5.
Yeah, I
or
think that's
they're doing
probably right.
Halloween. And was it gory? Lots of blood?
You know what was interesting is there was lots of blood, but like stuff like the reverse bear trap, which would be extremely gory, because I think we were debating on what was actually supposed to be happening, because
Yeah.
they just cut to blood. But
I think we ended up working
I
out
think
that
it's
it
supposed to
pulls your
rip your
jaw
head in
apart,
half.
so your head is like like the puppets in
Right.
South Park. Your head would be like that.
Okay, so we'll reserve judgment on that one. I'm guessing it's going to be an M.
Yeah, the thing that kind of bothers me is like the whole concept is like you want to make it as much like you're being tortured as possible. Is that
Hey, does that
how
sound-
you want people to feel?
They're
Well, I
at-
talked to the guy. Seemed to want to make a cool game. You know, it's his role. He's got the Saw property. He has to make a good game. So they had some interesting ideas, like the lunatics in the asylum are not just dudes with hatchets that have been hired to hack you or whatever. It's like guys that have traps of their own that could kill them. It could kill you. Maybe they need you to disarm their trap. Maybe they're just trying to take
But
both
don't
of you out.
trust anyone in
Or
the
it's a
same
guy
file.
that's maybe he's had a trap has been sprung on him, so he's like disfigured or something. So they at least have they didn't go with a generic goon route. So it looks like they're trying some interesting stuff. It could end up maybe they'll end up finding something that works with the property, but.
Sounds like fun for the whole family. Can't wait for the Wii version. So what else were they showing? Anything?
The other
Vandal
big
Hearts.
game is
But it's
there,
downloadable.
there was a lot of stuff there, including things that are already out. But the other big game was Silent Hill: Shattered Memories, which a lot of people have already read a little bit about the demo on Nintendo Power. But I'm really looking forward to it. It seems like they're really trying to like push forward the survival horror and still keep it survival horror, and they're talking about like they're eliminating a lot of the things that they think break immersion, like text bubbles and
Yeah, it's not like press A to read this document. Instead, you just go over and you point your flashlight at it, and then you actually read it. Or if there's an object that would elicit a comment from your dude, then he will just say it if you're looking at it. So rather than push A and say, this object looks like it's been here for a long time, I think that, and then hit A again.
Yeah, and they
It may
moved
have
a lot
belonged
of
to.
things like the map to like his actual cell phone, and you take his cell phone camera.
They have
and
a
you
really
can
cool
see, like,
cell phone camera that
ghostly illusions, and they say that
Pretty
like
nice,
if you
really.
see like a phone number on a billboard, you can call that and actually get a message.
you might get scary texts.
so does this look much better
Ooh.
than Silent Hill Homecoming?
I think so, yeah. Because another thing they did is they took out combat, and so there's still enemies, but it's a chase sequence. You
They
don't
said they haven't
have a
taken out
clunky-
combat. I think there
clunky
might
fighting.
be instances where you have confrontation. I think they'll kind of be just specific to that instance. They call them nightmare scenarios in the interview. So things will happen. I don't think you won't be walking around with a lead pipe and then hitting A to pipe things, but
And
Yeah,
another thing
they
they're
kinda
really
left it
trying to
open.
do is like they're really trying to make it, to where you don't get the same experience every time. They talk like everything that you do has some impact on where the story goes.
oh yeah, supposedly there's a psychological analysis, kind of like the endings in Silent Hill 2. It will tailor your actual experience based on what you're doing,
What
without
you're more
telling you
afraid of.
overtly. Do you want to, go this path or that path?
That's cool.
I think it's interesting that Konami, I mean, with Saw and with Fallujah, actually have two games that are not very Konami-esque games because they don't normally go into the movie licensing, and they certainly don't go into the FPS or tax sim genre. So I think it's two kind of bold titles. And
Yeah, all three of those games are Western developed too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them. All right, next game up, we're going a little bit off the beaten track, but we have a game that Mike Damiani has been knocking out the hours on. So, Mike, tell us
Beating and
about...
knocking.
Sorry?
Beating and knocking.
He's been beating
Maybe
and
you can-
knocking like a champ.
Yeah.
Mr. D, tell us all about Muramasa.
Muramasa is, first of all, it's a Wii exclusive game. So all you Wii gamers out there, this is a game that you should be looking forward to. It is, it takes place in this Japanese fantasy setting. Basically, it plays out like Metroid or a Castlevania Symphony. It's like a Metroidvania type of game. You go through these different levels, and there's lots of backtracking, and you come to points where you get to stop and fight enemies. But
Closer to Metroidvania or Castleroids?
I would say actually Castleroids. Patrick
Gross.
actually asked me. He thought it looked a lot like Metroid, but the design is like Metroid, but it plays more like a Castlevania game.
And
So
correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the guys that made Odin Sphere.
Yeah,
Yes,
Odin
these are
Sphere
the
and Grim
guys.
Grimoire.
Right.
Vanillaware?
correct.
Yeah, Vanillaware.
So very good track record here. It's
That's
a very
cool.
good quality game so far. But it revolves around swordplay, and on the surface it looks like a button masher. But you can't just get away with button mashing because your sword actually has a meter. You have your own life meter, and your sword has a meter. And when your sword deflects receives too much damage, it will shatter. You lose all your swords, you're going to be defenseless in the game. You're just going to get tore apart. So there is a heavy emphasis on using a lot of diverse techniques. So it is much more in depth so far than a button masher.
There's a lot of weapon switching? Is that
There
what you
is
mean?
there are different types of swords that you can forge from a blacksmith, and you unlock different types of swords by beating the bosses. But most boss battles I've played, you will lose like one or two swords. So it's kind of cool that when you do switch your sword, you get this really all-powerful like Omni-slash type move, which like destroys everything on the screen. So, but you can't abuse it though. You can only use it once in a short time span.
So what is it exactly about Muramasa that makes it more than just, Castlevania in feudal Japan?
Oh, well, the thing you need to know about this game is, the thing that sticks out the most is the art style, obviously. I mean, this game looks beautiful in motion. What? Are you
Nothing.
laughing at? What are you laughing at?
Patrick did a little...
I see. No,
not gonna come through
I mean,
with
the game,
audio.
The screenshots, it looks impressive from screenshots, but they don't do it justice. You have to see this game in motion. Bloodworth even commented on it. The animation in this game
Yeah.
is amazing.
It's just a lot of different layers and stuff. Like, we just have a field in the background, and like you see, just a number of different layers moving back and forth, and they have this weird thing that they do, like in all their games, where you like actually see people kind of breathing and stuff.
And just distorting
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
image
Kind
or
of
stretching
morphing
it
a
a
little
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely do some impressive work with that. But it's there isn't a heavy emphasis on necessarily like collecting power ups and items. You do have to restore your health. It's more heavy emphasis on action and combos. So Metroid and Castlevania, you don't really have that like combos. It doesn't. It keeps track of your combos on there. So you try and chain up these massive combos, and it looks pretty impressive and stuff. So
So it's kind of like a beat 'em up, Ryan's favorite genre.
oh yeah, it's more beat 'em up than anything, but it's not button masher. It supports GameCube and classic controller support. So for those of you who don't like Waggle, but it from the control schemes I see you have to play it with standard button input. I did not see a Waggle option. It's either the classic GameCube or you hold the Wii remote with your side.
All right, so to finish up, you've been playing it for several hours. Thumbs up, thumbs down, cautious thumbs up. You happy?
I give it definitely a thumbs up right now. But there's a lot of Japanese. You don't need to know the Japanese to play it. This is the Japanese import build. But so can't really comment on the story. But yeah, it's definitely really fun to play.
Yeah, I think it comes out in the U.S. in just a couple months, maybe before even E3.
Yes, it's supposed to come out this year and not next year. Someone said it was supposed to come out next year. That's in the UK. It comes out this year in the United States. We just don't know when yet.
You get.
All right, next up, we're going to have a quick look at Assassin's Creed 2. Obviously, the trailer's come out, and there's been some info on Game Informer this month. So I'm just going to run around the table and ask for everybody's opinion on what they've seen so far. Patrick,
Yes.
what do you think about the proposed changes and the teaser trailer? You think it's going to be better than Assassin's Creed 1?
Well, obviously the teaser trailer doesn't let on too much, but based on what's been leaked to the internet so far, it looks like they're really making a steady effort at trying to improve the things, that they've got wrong the first time. Supposedly there's more than 13 or so different mission types now. Getting to flags will yield, actual in-game rewards rather
Wow.
than just a sense
Yeah,
of
because I played the
achievement.
PS3 version and there was no reward.
Yeah, so that's cool. You can swim, you can fly. It looks like it's going to be a bigger game in scope overall, and I'll be excited to know more about it when the details come.
Mike D?
Being someone who actually didn't play the first Assassin's Creed, I will say that the teaser did get me more excited for this than the original one. And based on also what I've read on from the leaks and stuff, that I had heard from the first game that there were a lot of faults with it, which is why I didn't actually go back and try it yet. But now I think I might actually just jump in with Assassin's Creed 2 based on this, especially if they're fixing a lot of stuff that wasn't working with it originally. Then I think I'll start with this, unless there's something I need to know in the first game that will absolutely ruin the experience.
Well, if I can just quickly interject.
Sure.
Something.
Interject away.
Yeah, this is a question. Answer it for people who have not played the first game.
Well, something that the teaser kind of hints at is that there's a return of the Animus computer thing, and
Well, of course, but
I mean, I personally would have preferred to just see them go into a straight, Venice, Italy, rather than going back and forth between the present, the future, and the past. I don't know.
All right, Bloodworth.
for me, I'm very excited gameplay-wise. I think they have a lot of room to improve, and it does seem like they're going a long way. Story-wise, I'm kind of hesitant because the hints towards the end of the last game were that we would see something either in Asia or in South America, which would be totally different. And instead, we're kind of still sticking to kind of a almost predictable Da Vinci Code Templar kind of mythos. And I don't know. I would kind of like to have seen him.
You got
branch out a
something
little bit
against the
more.
Renaissance?
No, I think it's going to be kind of a cool setting. I don't need to retread the Da Vinci Code in Assassin's Creed 2.
Okay, Justin.
I will say that when I visited the studio before they released the original Assassin's Creed, it seemed almost as if the team felt like a little bit of pain at having to let the game go. Having they had such an ambitious look for the first game. They wanted everything to be super awesome. There's a lot that they had to cut. There's a lot that they had to just do and put out a game and then stand behind it. So I think now maybe they'll have the chance to just make the game they wanted to make in the first place, or make it even cooler than they thought it would be in the first place. But I'm really psyched about it. I think the team is really talented. There were so many good ideas in the first one.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first one was really disappointing. It suffers from Peter Molyneux syndrome, as far as I'm concerned, where they had all these great ideas, and they had so much they had to pull, whether it was just to ship on time or whatever the issues were. So I'm glad that they're putting some new stuff in, and I'm prepared to forget about Assassin's Creed 1, which I thought did not live up to the hype. I mean, the press before it was absolutely phenomenal. Everybody was raving over it, and then it came out was a total damn squib in my book. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
It
this.
might be a little.
You think this might be the same?
I don't think it's a total damn squib.
Well, you're
Maybe a little squibby around the edges. Maybe it had a 20% squib, but I think that if people haven't checked it out and you're interested by the trailer, if you go back and check out their first one, I think you'll
Yeah,
find
if you're not
some cool
overhyped
stuff.
about it, it's not bad at all. I think it was just a letdown in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think it matched up the hype. But anyway, we'll see. All right, now don't fall out of your seats, but for the second week running, people, we're having On the Hook questions. Yes, everybody's favorite segment is back for the second week running, which means you now won't see it until Christmas. I kid. So let's go with some of the questions. The first one actually is Patrick.
Yeah.
You want to read out this question because you play a lot of these games that are really clever and story driven and stuff.
I do, sadly. Do you think games can sometimes be treated as literature? Asks Tanju Jujunat. I believe so, having recently finished Lost Odyssey and the new Prince of Persia. But how do games stack up against books and movies in story quality? Well,
You could try reading a book or watching a movie.
well, I guess in terms of if games can be considered literature, you have to ask if, are you qualifying that as something that's high art, or if it's something, that you want to compare as a medium, as a container. But to answer that, I personally think that, it's largely subjective, and, to some people, games can be, literature, high art, and some people they're not, like Robert Ebert. Personally, if you look at something like Metal Gear
Robert?
Solid, what?
Robert?
Roger Ebert, you mean?
Roger Ebert. Did I say
said
Robert?
Maybe not.
The fat guy from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Sorry.
That dude, Ebert.
Sorry.
So,
I
I mean,
should've kept my
if
mouth
you look
shut.
at a game like Metal Gear Solid, it clearly blurs the lines between, what is film, and what is like postmodern, what is a video game.
Whereas Super Mario Galaxy doesn't.
Yeah, but
What is
the game
one
like
guy
Metal Gear
winking in
Solid,
front of an audience?
going to the literature thing, it's not just about like the written content, like the actual story, like the storyline and text. It's more so the cinematics in it, the camera
Yeah.
work. A lot of games now, outside of cutscenes, like the story loses a lot of its luster and power because, for whatever, I mean, it's kind of ironic because game creators have complete control of the camera. I'm sure a director would love that, but it seems like the camera work is not very. They lose some of the cinematic quality in some of these games, whereas in film, you got these directors who are really skilled and cinematographers that are great at it. Part of the storytelling thing is the visuals and the cinematics, and I think games, even though we got these great visuals in games, I still think game creators have a little ways to go in terms of achieving good cinematics.
Maybe you
and
should go back
storytelling.
and play Resident Evil 1.
Well, I think.
Oh man!
I mean,
Did I just blow your mind?
To take that
there?
a step further, I mean, yeah, you get games like Metal Gear where the cinematics are superb and they drive the story, and there are a lot of games out there where they really do push it, and the gameplay ends up as filler.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you're caught between a rock and a hard place. You're caught between, it being a visual medium and an audio medium, just like the movies. And then, you're trying to push a story into it, so it's a little bit like books, but it ends up like some of those old Steve Jackson Choose Your Adventure books.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's kind of where it comes in too. Is like a lot of the power in the video game story comes from your role in it.
Yeah.
If you just wrote out those events, like they wouldn't be as compelling because you're not making those decisions. Like some of the moral decisions in Fallout 3. Where you're really having to decide, okay, who am I going to side with? I'm not sure if any of these is really a good decision. That's a little bit more on that level of profound thought.
At the end of the day, the interactive element is really what distinguishes the video game medium from, literature, film. And just to answer this plainly,
No.
yeah, I think you can in some aspects, and some aspects you can't. So,
I like Half-Life.
yeah.
I think that Half-Life, kind of set the bar, and I don't think anyone has really pushed it past that yet.
I like trying
Half-Life is not literature.
by the way. I like trying to climb ladders backwards in Half-Life, the first one.
All right, moving on. Daniel Bloodworth, you got a question for us, a really long one, so feel free to paraphrase it.
Yeah, this is from My Wall Ain't Invisible. And he asked, does anyone think games on the Wii score too highly by various websites and magazines? Not talking about garbage third-party games, but it seems to me that when a good or decent third-party game for the Wii comes out, reviewers are so shocked that they score higher than they should, with Mad World being a recent example.
Stop scoring good games highly, for God's sake.
Well, you think he's got a point?
Well, I
Mad
don't
World was
see
awesome.
the reviews so much as being an issue, but I do feel like the general reaction is anytime there's a good Wii game, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a good Wii game, that never happens. And I think by this point it feels kind of old whenever somebody says that. It's like, there's definitely not.
We just did it with Muramasa,
the
didn't
solid,
we?
Yeah.
Finally.
there's definitely not the solid output every month, that you would expect from most systems, especially one doing as well as the Wii is. But it's not like there aren't good games, especially if you're just picking up a Wii game right now. There's tons of things to filter through.
It's kind of the plight of a Nintendo fan in general. Anyway.
Yeah, it's been that way for a dozen years for Nintendo fans.
Yeah, I think it definitely shows its face more in the front end of a game's life cycle when it's first unveiled. I think if anything, games get more hype and attention than they maybe should. And when a game like Mad World comes out, because when there's not that much else that caters to that type of demographic of gamers, it's obviously going to get more attention from the Wii consumer that wants that type of game. That's why Mad World, it is a good game. You play it, but I agree with Bloodworth. I don't think a lot of journalists are bumping up these game scores just because there are not that many good Wii games.
They might not be doing it, on purpose. I think it's an inadvertent kind of thing. So, you look at it, there's 40 million Wiis out there. Almost every gamer has a Wii as their second console, whether they've got a PS3, whether they've got a 360. So, my reaction when I see a good Wii game is, oh wow, great, and I do get a little bit sucked in at first.
It gets a lot of those people start to support this game bandwagons where they've played a little bit of it, they haven't played the final billion. Like, this is a game. If you want to see more games like this, go out and go buy it. That's where I see it. That's where I see it happening. But in terms of the review scores,
yeah, Mad World is his example, and I think Mad World is a pretty great game, and I think its Metacritic's fairly high too. So if you don't have any better examples of a game being, oh my God, 10.
I would think the only games that might get that subconscious bump that you're talking about are actually first-party Nintendo games, especially when those core ones come out. I think loyal fan bases that,
And that
most
happens-
journalists have a lot of loyalties.
Well, of course,
to it.
you know,
That happens with any big game as
Yeah,
well. I
yeah,
mean, for any
Nintendo
platform.
Exactly.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
you know it's a champion of your platform, then people
mean,
are
The number
gonna.
of 10s GTA 4 got, and then people kind of took back a month later.
All right, final question. This is from Dan Rocket. What is the incentive for developers and distributors / publishers to charge less for downloaded games? Well, you know, there's nothing forcing them to do it, but the incentive is, you know, the cheaper you make your game, the more sales you're going to get. I mean, it's, you know, it's not exactly rocket science. I think, you know, the iTunes applications, the iPhone applications are a prime example of that right now with regards to the amount of 99-cent games and 2.99-cent games that sell, you know, a lot better than games that are 5, 6, 7, and 8.99.
And there's also, for whatever reason, the downloadable market, I mean, people are more stingy with their money. People will go out and pay $60 for some Iron Man game, no problem.
That's because
but
you
if
get
you want to
some-
charge $15 for something off the PSN, oh no, that's too much.
Some Iron Man game, or
Well,
that
you know,
specific last Iron Man
it's
game
the
that was so
psychology
awful.
of having something
Made by the
in,
same
you know,
people that
your
did
hand,
Beast
whether
Rider.
it's a box or whether it's a manual, but you know,
Sorry.
a CD. But you cut those out of the loop, and you cut the cut that goes to GameStop or Amazon.com, and you can actually start delivering premium quality content for a fraction of the price. I mean, let's look at World of Goo.
Yeah.
World of Goo is a frigging great game. How much is that? Was it
$10?
$10?
$12, something like that?
And that's actually that's doing relatively well, but it's not doing the gangbusters numbers it should. And I think that's
Getting
where,
pirated a lot for sure.
well, I think that's where demos come in. You know, even more importantly. So you know,
Yeah.
if they add more time and or budget to producing a decent light version or a demo version, which they're doing on the iPhone right now, because I've got to download a whole bunch of stuff, and that's led to me buying full versions of the games. I think people will be more happy to go out and buy downloadable games. You can still charge a lot less because you're not paying for shipping, you're not paying for handling, you're not paying for manuals and boxes and CDs. And I think that's the way the system's going to go. And I think it's, you know, you'll see that especially more on PC over the coming months, especially when we look at, you know, on live and stuff like that. All right, that's about it for this week's show for episode 53. We'll be back next week with the imaginatively titled episode 54. Shane will be with us. Don't forget to find us on Facebook. There is an Invisible Walls group out there. Some of us regularly post there. Some of us just watch and laugh from the sidelines. But yeah, feel free to post there and join us. And don't forget, you know, if you like the game, this particular broadcast, dig it, recommend it to your friends, pimp it, do what you need to do to get our numbers up, because we're whores and we love big numbers. Anyway, thank you again. It's been a fun show, a little bit shorter than usual. We'll be back next week with lots of controversy and lots of cool games, I promise. Right. We're out. Bye.
Wait. Show's not over yet, guys. Hey, I know I couldn't make it for the recording of this program, but I came to give up something awesome. We have 300 beta codes for Fat Princess that are live now. The first 300 people to send an email to invisiblewalls@gametrailers.com with Fat Princess in the subject line will be getting in on the online beta for Fat Princess. So send away. If you're listening to this on Sunday or Monday, you're probably a little too late, but the first 300 are getting hooked up. Invisible Walls really out.